It's been 25 years since Primal Fear formed and released their debut album. And yes, I did say album. What does Ralf Scheepers of Primal Fear think after a quarter century of doing it? We'll find out next on CHRIS Akin Presents. It is CHRIS Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and joining me today is a guy that, as he pointed out to me as we started, that I have interviewed over and over and over again, and we've done this many, many times, which is a testament to their 25 years of longevity. I cannot even believe I'm saying that, but it has been 25 years since Primal Fear formed, and put out their brilliant self-titled debut, and now there is a deluxe edition of it coming out. And to talk all about it is the great singer of Primal Fear, Mr. Ralf Scheepers. Ralf, how are you, man?
Thanks for your words, Chris. I'm fine. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great, man. It's always great to talk to you. Always great to talk to one of my favorite bands. I have, likewise, as you know, I have loved this band since the minute I heard it. And cool. Dude, I'm just going to say, and I'm going to imagine you got this when management or whatever put this in front of you. I can't believe it's been 25 years. I still remember getting the CD, or back then, I think it might even have been a cassette the first time, and being like, wow, this is amazing. And it doesn't feel like it was a quarter century ago.
No, it feels like 10 years, Chris. It's the same way. I mean, everybody started a little bit early. I mean, you know that Sinner was there, I was in Gamma Ray, I was even in Tyrant Pace before when I was a kid. You know, I started very early, so with 16. So these past 25 years were feeling like 10 years in the end, right?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you, look at this this photo here. Look at these young guys. Oh, that's let me put this one. There we go. Look at those young guys there. You guys have come a long way from there, man. And the band has grown greatly since then. And I know you know that. And I mean, it's not the same musical band, I don't think, that it was at the start. I mean, you guys have definitely, without ever jeopardizing the core sound that you established with the self-titled debut, you've always added things, you've always tried things, you've experimented a little bit, which I'm assuming is not only to keep it fresh to you, but also to keep it relevant to the audience. Is that fairly right?
You answered the question. I mean, it's always somehow walk and race's edge somehow when you're writing new stuff. But I mean, everything we write is coming out of our blood, and if we don't have the feeling that it's working for us, we will not release it. And that's a good thing that we have fans that they really like the same music like we do, the metal stuff. Of course, like you say, over the years you evolve a little bit, and you'll learn more, also in terms of studio gear and recording yourself and all this, you know. So that's somehow basically what really happened the last decade, that everybody has his sound now sounding as solid as he hears himself.
Sure.
And this is absolutely one-on-one transported on the medium in the end, whatever it is, if it's a CD or whatever you have nowadays. Forget the streaming shit. But like you said, yes, we've been growing. I mean, of course, and we got the opportunity, we got the fortune that we have 5 members writing, you know, and that's always good that we have many ideas to choose from.
Sure. Well, Ralf, let's go back to even before you joined Primal Fear. You know, there's always been the talk of the Judas Priest tryout or non-tryout or whatever that was, and I don't want to get into that as much as I wanted to get right past that. When you got to putting Primal Fear together, you and Matt put that together, what were you expecting, and what were you trying to do musically? Were you trying to set out to make a Judas Priest-ish sort of band? Because it did sound like it. I mean, some of the songs definitely, like 9 Lives, that could be a Judas Priest song, you know.
funny because that song is from Matt. But anyway, I mean, yeah, Tom, Matt, and I, we formed the band, and Klaus, the drummer, came also into the band. We started out of fun. I mean, I was recording choirs for a Sinner album. Actually, they recorded not far away from here in Essling, in my hometown, and they asked me if I'm willing to sing some lines or some choirs. And then I did, because we know each other many years already here in the Stuttgart area scene. And apologize. It was just that they knew that I'm out of Gamma Ray, and I'm not. I was not the Priest guy, and I never rehearsed anyway. But let's all forget this. It's all positive now. Everybody's happy.
Sure.
It happened. Ripper is doing a great job. Did a great job, and he was a fantastic match for Judas Priest.
Sure.
And he did a fantastic job, and he's still doing. And Rob is back in Priest. Everybody's happy. Primal Fear was born. So that's the shortage of it. But anyway, we just said, let's compose some songs and see what's happening. So we recorded Chainbreaker, 9 Lives, Silver and Gold, and Dollars. And the record company from JVC in Japan, they were waiting for stuff for me. They said, if you ever come up with something, Ralph, we're here, and send us the stuff. So we sent the cassette, maybe the same you had.
Sure.
And we have such an amazing feedback from Japan that we got a record deal right away. And that was really a great starting point. And also here in Europe, then the record company started a competition to sign us, which is it's a great position. So we were really happy. And then we just composed the other tracks, simply out of our mind, out of our blood, how we felt, very free, without any pressure. And got that success back in the days with Step 48 in the German charts, which is quite not comparable to nowadays, because there were much more copies to sell to get on Step 45 back in the day. And that's really was a big impact for us as well.
Certainly. Now, Ralph, obviously Primal Fear has become your career band. You know, it's the band that you started. You're obviously 25 years. You know, most bands do not last 25 years.
True.
When you started the band, or when you guys first put it together, you, of course, you know, forgetting the Priest thing, you were coming out of Gamma Ray. And I wonder, at that point, did you even think of Primal Fear as a career band, or did you just kind of like put it together and say, okay, well, let's see where this goes, and with no thought past one record, really?
Exactly, the second thing, and that's why it was so free, because there was no pressure at all, you know. So, and maybe people also felt that, because we were just really happy composing songs together. I mean, I've known the guys for many years, but then when we came together, I got to know them really as nice guys, and nice people, and nice friends, buddies, friends since years now. And that's a good thing. The Colonel is still there, like Matt, Tom, and me. And of course, Alex is also a very loyal guy. And now Michael, of course, also. But the Colonel is still there, and that says something in the end, right?
Certainly, it certainly does. Now, Ralph, when you do a project like this, when you do a deluxe edition and you go back and you remaster it, and you know, you obviously add bonus tracks and all that stuff to it, most musicians that I know they're never satisfied anyway with anything they do. And I've got to imagine for you as the vocalist, you go back and you're like, oh, I would have done this different. I would have phrased this differently. So did you have those moments? And if you could think of any, where did you see things that you might change now versus when the debut came out? Still
have things to change nowadays, but whenever you're satisfied, stop.
Right.
Anyway, of course, I said before, everybody is now also very familiar with gear and so forth. And I was just the singer back in the days, and of course a songwriter. But now I can also say that I'm an engineer and a producer as well, from the perspective nowadays. But back in the day, somebody else was pushing the button, and we were working as a team behind the glass in the regie room, and I was in the small room singing. And that's how we started with Gamma Ray already, and also early with Tyrant Pace, with the tape machines. And this was the first album, actually. The first album of Primal Fear was the first hard disk recorder back in the days where we recorded, and it was I think it was mastered also on DAT and all those digital first tape digital systems.
Sure.
You can compare this to nowadays, and it's not so long ago, 25 years. I mean, you know, you can really see how fast this developed and evolved somehow. And yes, I would love to do this and that song with a sound from nowadays. Coming back to your question, of course, we would love to record several stuff again. But I'm pretty much satisfied with the first Primal Fear album. The sound was really solid, and was really happy. And also, I mean, Tom's guitar sound was just amazing. And I'm really happy also with my vocal sound back in the days. And I can hear that my voice is also alternating a little bit in my age, but people kept compared sometimes to a good wine. I hope it's lasting for a while.
Sure, it definitely. Well, I mean, it definitely sounds great, and yeah, I know you know that. I mean, your voice is the signature of the band.
But once again, Chris, I'm not really 100% satisfied whenever an album is recorded. When I listen back, I always would love to change things in the end, because maybe that's the thing. We as musicians, we're somehow perfectionists, and somehow you have to, in the end, decide things as a team and do compromises, right?
Right. Well, and you know, the unique thing, Ralf, is that, you know, I've been around a million musicians, you know, over the years, and musicians you guys never believe that you've done well. Every musician comes off a stage, whether it's in front of 100,000 people or 10 people, and is like, oh, did we suck? Were we terrible? You know, no musician ever comes off and says, yeah, we kicked ass. You know?
Oh yes. I mean, you know it somehow. You have that feeling, right? But it's like, maybe you can compare it to sports as well. You know, whenever you are finished with a game, the next game will come. So it's the same on tour. Whenever the show stops, the next day there's going to be another show. So we always try to keep that level in a way. Yes, but you're right. I mean, that's also what keeps us going in the end, right? To always continue going and growing as well.
Sure. Now, what has it been, Ralf, that, like, to me, and this is, you could just tell me that I'm wrong, and it's just the way I hear it, but to me, the first like 3 records, you guys kind of had a formula. The first 3 records, all kind of, the songs are pretty much interchangeable, and maybe production levels got better, but musically, those first 3 were very similar. Then after that is really when you guys started doing different things. You know, I point to like Seven Seals as an example of one where you guys really stretched out and tried some different recording tips and some vocal things and stuff. What was there a moment that you guys were like, okay, it's time to grow the sound, or is that really just experience and years together that grew the band and grew the music?
Yeah, it's trying things out. It's somehow, you know, playing around with sounds, and also somehow trying this melody a little bit different to that melody, and, you know, push things back and forth, and somehow, yeah, maybe trying to bring in a little bit more of an involvement in the end, you know, a little bit more of developing. And yeah, and like I said before, it's always also a team decision. It's not one guy deciding. And that's a good thing also, that we are somehow, if we think this red line, this red thread is the right way to go, but let's somehow compose some songs around it as well, which will also fit on the album. That's the way to go, you know.
Sure.
Before, first place, we got to be lucky with it. In the end, of course, there's always somebody out there. People always say, wow, you record the same record all the time over and over again. But some people, why did you change the sound in your music? You know, there's always people out there who are not 100% satisfied.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people may say that, but for you guys, I mean, you guys are not AC/DC, for God's sakes. I mean, you guys have definitely taken chances, and, you know, even tempo changes. You know, you guys have experimented with slower songs and faster songs, and mid dropouts and drop-ins, and I mean, you guys have done a lot of different things. I have to wonder, for fans, if you think this, do you think that the success, and I do think this, I think the success of Primal Fear is not necessarily the records as much as seeing the live show. I don't think you can really get what you guys do until you see it once or twice. And once you see it, then you really get it, because it's such a intense experience when you guys
It's
play.
also true, yes. I mean, it's an entire package, you know. So, I mean, metal music is live music in the end, right? So, and that's exactly what you say. You are trying to sound as live as possible sometimes in the studio. I always tend to say, I would love to record an album again when you did the tour afterwards. You know, you would
Sure.
love to record the songs, how they somehow developed live in a way, because they sometimes tend to go to a certain raw and somehow more energetic direction, which you would love to somehow just print on an album. That's why also live albums sometimes sound so great too, you know?
Sure, definitely. Now, Ralf, obviously, man, Primal Fear has had the great fortune of being successful at a time when the industry itself has not been. You know, the industry has really changed, and I'll say it changed for the worst, and I'm sure you probably agree.
Yes.
What do you think it is about Primal Fear that has kept you guys so strong and continually growing in a time where the money, really, it's the money has disappeared for most bands, you know, to where they cannot continue to actively write, record, and tour?
It's depending what everybody does aside of music. So I was, for instance, I was working many years in the industry as a project team leader, but that changed 12 years ago, which was very late. So I couldn't do both things parallel anymore. But it's not so easy, like you say now, to survive by only doing music.
Sure.
But that always worked somehow for Primal Fear, because people didn't really rely on the money from Primal Fear, which is also a part, but it would not last, of course. That's why I'm still a teacher, and that's why I'm still singing for other bands and offering my voice for other bands and so forth, and producing other people in my studio. You got to have this mosaic of things, which just in the end create an entire picture of surviving.
Right.
But that always worked for Primal Fear in the end, that we had this healthy basement of stable ground to keep going and to continue in the end.
Sure, certainly, man. Well, Ralf, the biggest news that I've seen out of Primal Fear in the last, I'll say, 6 months, was that Matt was sick recently. And obviously I don't want you to get into, you know, anything that he doesn't want out there, but I just wanted to get maybe an update on how's he doing. Is he feeling better? Is he recovering? You know,
he's on a good path, Chris. So
okay, good. It's
not easy. So we're still not able to do live shows now after the COVID shit. We are also stuck somehow, because we are, like I said, we're buddies and friends. We're loyal, and we just stick together. And we just said, well, we don't do shows until he's fine again. But that's exactly right now very a presence topic we were talking about, and this is going to be the next step. What I know is that everybody's composing and writing like crazy. Okay. So that's always the good side of a bad side.
Sure.
Is that we are productive people.
Absolutely. So then maybe the silver lining will be out of this is that we'll get a new release in like early 2023. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it's a pity that we couldn't even tour with Metal Commando in the end.
Yeah.
So, but we have some years to come to somehow get back the times when we play Metal Commando songs.
Sure. How does that feel to you? Does that feel like that record becomes like that lost record in the Primal Fear catalog just because you couldn't share it with the fans?
Unfortunately, yes, but it's still a strong record, and doesn't say any opposite thing if you can play it live. But like I said, we will do that. So we will be there and play it for you guys, maybe in 2023.
Okay. I ask everybody this now. I mean, it's unfortunate that I even have to, but do you have any plans to change how you go about touring? I mean, obviously the pandemic's a real thing, and And, you know, the health thing is very real with the pain. I did 8 days in the hospital for it. So I certainly get it. And
I had it too.
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, it's an awful that you don't want anybody to have.
Yeah.
That being said, Primal Fear, at least the times that I've seen you guys play, you guys are you guys play on stage, but you also, it's not uncommon to see you guys kind of mingle out into the crowd and shake hands and sign stuff and take photos and whatnot. It's a different time now, man. I mean, can you still do that?
We're definitely missing that because that's our family. You know, I know that the summer festivals now are happening everywhere in Europe, and it's looking great. Many people show up again and so forth. So I know, but I also know the flip side, the danger behind, you know. So it's not easy. It's not so easy to tour real club shows anymore because I also don't know how many promoters, how many clubs and halls did survive all this shit.
Sure.
And that's the thing which our tour manager takes care of, and he's doing a great job. So he knows what's going on. So it would be possible again, but under different circumstances. Let's say now that we're lucky that the summer festivals are happening for many bands. I hope for us too by the end of the year. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that we get all over this shit in the end, no matter if it's a compromise, but in the end, everybody has to be healthy, which is the most important thing for us.
Right. And you know, in a way, not that I want to say that Matt's health in any way it could have a lucky piece of not being good, but in a way, the fact that you guys are not out there touring might be a good thing for you, just because every band and their brother that sat home for 2 years, which is everybody, is on the road now. So
everybody's out there now. It's exactly true. On the other hand, you don't want to be forgotten. That's why we also released this. It's also one point why we said, hello, we're still here. And it's also the 25 years of Primal Fear and the being members of Atomic Fire, of a record company. That was reason enough. And of course, most important to fans to release such a candy, you know.
Sure, definitely. I wanted to ask you too about Atomic Fire real quick. You know, obviously it's guys that you've worked with in the past, even though they're a new label now. But you know, was it difficult to make the jump, because you'd worked with the old label for a long time?
It didn't change anything for us because we're still doing music. Sure. The good thing is we know the entire team of Atomic Fire because they were working for Nuclear Blast, part of them, right? Not everybody, but many of them. And we know each other for so many years in the scene because the scene is not that big that you don't know people. Of course, there's still on international, there's still people you don't know. But in Germany, you almost know everybody.
Certainly, you certainly do. Well, Ralf, again, I can't believe it's been 25 years, but it has been 25 years. The release that I think everybody, even if you have the old release, the release that everybody should pick up is the new deluxe edition of Primal Fear, one of the best metal records of the last 25 years in my mind. I love this record. I still play it.
Remastered with bonus tracks, Breaker from Exact Cover. We have the Chainbreaker live and Running in the Dust live. So, like I said, it's remastered by Jacob Hansen. It's got a more solid sound, polished. So, check it out.
Absolutely. So, one more time, it is the self-titled release from Primal Fear, the deluxe edition. And Ralf, thanks so much for joining me here on CHRIS Akin Presents.
Thanks for having me again, Chris. So, when's the next time? Next year?
Yeah, 2023, when you're back with a new record.
Awesome.